So let me ask you this. So after that happened, like how did you
How did
cope
I cope?
with that? Like how did you over
Oh, so what ended up happening is that, as I said, my mom, I kind of tell my mom stuff like things. My grandmother had a good relationship with her, so we always kind of communicate with each other. Like they always had communications about certain things, and but there are times when I probably would maybe act out or do certain things, misbehave. But to be honest, my grandmother never really. She was kind of a soldier, I would say. But um, I don't know. I think I learned how to. I don't know how I ended up coping. Maybe I didn't realize it was coping back then too. You don't know these terminologies that is called coping mechanisms or
it
whatever.
just happened?
Yeah. So and then maybe she would, based on what they were telling you in school and with whatever you. And then to me, me just so excited for go school every time. Like maybe that was my, as you said, you use
That
the
was your getaway probably.
yeah, you use a performance. And I realized that with Black people in general, um, when in terms of crisis, they always use arts to
Yeah.
express their
Pain
hurt.
and struggle.
Yeah, yeah. And in general, it's not just Black people. I think people in general,
In
they tend
general.
to turn to the
Yeah.
creativity to express what's going on around them.
Okay.
If they don't want to do it violently, they use another method of doing it.
You kind of get it all. So
Yeah.
like did you ever actually get a chance to confront this person? Is he still alive? Uh,
No, this is what ended up happening. So I found out from one of my cousins. It was her dad, and I
okay.
found from her that guess what he did.
She experienced the same thing.
He did it to her, and I never. And then she was telling me over there. She wanted to tell me. She wanted to come to me, and she wanted to ask me. So I said, "Why didn't you say anything? You're much older."
She's probably scared,
Maybe
yeah.
she was afraid, and I think that's what was the issue. She probably was afraid at the time. She didn't know what to do. So in a sense, yeah, maybe she was afraid at that point in time. But anyway, she said to me, because I remember at one point in time when her dad, he had some complications. I think either he had diabetes and some whatever he have it, and he
Mhm.
was in the hospital. And I remember distinctly they told us in the family that, oh, she never got to the funeral and she never got look for him in the hospital. I was like, that is so strange. Like
Because that
maybe
resentment was there. Yeah.
hmm?
So that resentment and just all right.
She
Even
no, according to her, she told me that she
Mhm.
forgave him. But
Okay.
that's your dad. I don't think she did.
She
I
she
don't
did.
think she did. I don't think she will ever forgive him because of the
That,
fact that because if you forgive somebody, then you go and you confront them.
I'm,
You
I,
say,
I wouldn't go to the funeral either. I wouldn't.
I will not, and I would not encourage her to go to the funeral either because at the end of the day, that's what happened, and you endured all of that. If she was telling me all of this stuff, she told me herself this what happened and whatever. And I was like, so all this time you never thought to say anything. And she came to one of my cousin's funeral. She never said anything. She come to
Mhm.
see me, and then over the years, I remember she kept on distancing herself from
The
the
family.
family.
Everybody
And I was
else.
like, what was going on? Why are you distancing yourself?
Are you tearing up inside? Like the trauma from experiencing something like that and then being scared to speak. And then even with Jamaican culture, that's
Silence
a
kind of thing.
common thing, and it's constantly swept under the rug because no one really wants to confront a situation like that. So
Mhm.
like the the child might go through it and they might not feel comfortable speaking to their parents about it.
Because
Or
Yes.
create a safe space for them to communicate.
This
That's the thing.
right. Okay. So you notice that even with schools, because my
Mhm.
school was an all-girls school, so not necessarily my school only, but in general, you have schools that they start developing where they say, oh, you have the counselor there.
Yeah, I went to all girls school as well.
Oh, you went to all-girls school too? Yeah. So a lot of times they would probably go, most times, children might not tell you expressly or in the house, especially if they're not getting any message, they would go to
They try to find somebody to talk.
to tell them, yeah,
But sometimes they go to
the wrong
principals.
person.
They go to people for them to console them and to look out for them, and then the
They
person
really hush them
might
up.
use it against them. You also, like, you have many stories where girls get molested by teachers that they confide in. Boys. They're in
Boys
Jamaica.
too.
They might not see it as molestation. It's a gallus thing in Jamaica, but many times them getting abused as well. So even sometimes the pastors, you know, you hear all these stories. I went to the pastor to speak to him. The pastor ended soliciting sex
from the person. Yeah.
like in Jamaica, like we need those safe spaces, those avenues, those even whistleblowers within society that can help to create that thing where we can use it as an outlet. We don't really have those in Jamaica. If we do, it's probably never in the places that you expect it to be. It's usually
That's true. It's not there, and people are scared to talk about it because they think
Scared of reprisals. They're
yeah,
scared to be put
they
at a
don't think
certain way.
that some the consequences that you saying something about it, they are
Mhm.
scared of it. And to be honest, um, sometimes you really have to just speak out about it because how is it? How is anything like? How is anything gonna be? How you gonna, as I said, how you gonna help somebody else if you don't educate them about something? You understand?
now Kim. Seeing that you had that experience at that young age, how has that impacted you? How did it impact you?
Well,
Probably.
I would say for me, um, it, it has impacted me a lot. It has impacted me a lot, and I think even when I went to college, maybe I should have, and I never said anything to anybody. And until guess who I told? My husband.
Oh, so you're currently married?
Well, long story about that.
Oh, okay. Another thing.
I wrote a book about that. But so I told him because in my sense, you when as I said, I look on marriage as a unison. So
Mm.
marriage is not supposed to be something where you break down your partner,
Mm.
and you're supposed to build
Uplift
together,
them.
uplift each other. Because even when I was saying some things I learned in school, let's go and do counseling, let's go and do this, let's go and do therapy. A lot of times people are afraid of it because of the fact that they might feel like if you go and do therapy, it means that you're crazy. No, if you go and do counseling, that means that something is wrong with
What's wrong with you?
you. But to be honest, because when I was doing certain like marketing tests or whatever at school, they always tell you to do they do like a testing before and after. You debrief and brief, right?
Mm.
So when you debrief somebody, you give them information to kind of let them know what it is that they're gonna be tested on. You know that stuff for them. You're learning us. If you did any marketing stuff, they will tell you all them stuff. And you give them confidentiality agreement to go sign it to let them know what they're signing.
I did that for my masters. I had to do
Right.
all
You
of that.
had to do that, right? And that kind of to me kind of helps to clear their mind. So
Mm.
when I was telling him all of this stuff, and my friend who was also getting married to, she was doing that with her spouse. He never listened. Him take him stepmother advice and thought he knows whoever else advice. He was against it, right? Because I don't know if in his field them probably never do that. But as a woman, I understand that there's certain things that yes, you know what you go through, he knows what he goes through. And
Mm.
I think that most people go through things in life, and some of us don't share it because we're embarrassed about
Mm.
it. As I said, in my situation, I was that way. Didn't realize that I should have talked about it. And to be honest, a lot of times persons come up to me, even now, and they tell me these things about what's going on with them. Why
Yeah.
they tell me these things that's going on with them, I don't even know.
And you've never really shared your story on any platform.
Did right, but there are a lot of young girls that come to me, they call me all the time on the phone with me, telling me things that's happening to them.
I
And
strongly believe in the vibe. I strongly believe in your spirit just guiding you and it's
people, they
also.
call me and they talk to me and they open up to me, and they might not. And guess, as you said, you pointed out something. They might not tell their parents.
Mm.
Search for someone who they can probably confide
Somebody
in.
else. Yes.
So Kim, all right, what's one or two what's the advice you would give to persons who's possibly been through something similar to you? How they could possibly get help or how they could possibly go about overcoming such a situation?
All right. So to me, I think everybody deals with coping mechanisms differently.
Okay.
So you have to identify what works best for you.
Okay.
You have to know what type of personality you have, how you deal with stressors in life. You have to identify these things because not everybody deals well with stressors. Not everybody, even when you go into the workplace, you realize what you can manage, what you can't manage, and what your limitations are, what they're not good. So my best advice to is to know what works best for you first.
Okay.
Right. You doing the arts might be what works best for you. My young friend, he's was 17. What works best for him is yoga.
Okay.
Right. So another person may be running. Different people cope with things differently. Some people, I'm not gonna lie to you, some people turn to using sex as a way of coping
Or
True.
drugs.
and drugs as a
Really.
way of coping. Yeah, they turn to drugs as a way of coping.
So just for you to find what works for you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say use a drug because the drugs can make situation.
Make it work.
Definitely.
I was in no way, shape, or form endorsing. I was just saying that I know
Yeah,
persons who have been in such situations and they have used drugs or depressants, overused depressants and abused them to
overuse the
Kind of
depressant.
drone it.
get
Right.
themselves a high so that they can get away from what is happening to them.
And the next thing too, I've realized because over the years, I spoke to my mother and my grandma because they talk to me all the time, especially my mom. Sometimes she called me, tell me, oh, she missed me. I didn't real. Next thing I realized to growing up, you thought that when you reach a certain age, you would stop crying and stuff, right?
Oh
My
man.
mom would call me, tell me, said she crying. I said, you're 50 and you're still, what? And you're crying. She said, yes, she cries sometimes. And I realized that it don't matter if you're young or you're old. Everybody has emotions.
That's what
And
people
people know
don't
they put on
realize.
how strong
We
they are.
all go through it. Yeah, we all go through it. Regardless of
God,
that.
go through and go cry. And I'm telling you, they tell me, said I'm crying all the time.
People were human.
We're human beings.
We have to be human.
That's why I have to stay. I'm telling you, I've seen it. It no matter how, and they say it's easier to repair a child than it is to repair an adult. And it's true because once you go through something traumatic, it changes you the hell.
Definitely.